guys, I'm going to be changing out my front lower control arm bushings on my 2011 Lexus ISF, and I thought I'd try to video it for everybody. I'm going to be changing it with a brand new Figs Engineering bushing. I got a pair of these just about a week ago. I'd lost my front tires. The outside or the inside of the tires had worn bald all the way down to the treads, to the belts, and everybody on my ISF forum recommended to go ahead and get either a RR Racing or Figs Engineering set of bushings to replace. So I selected the Figs. I think they're both really good quality. I just picked this one. And to give you an idea, I'm on the driver's side. I jacked it up, took the tires off to give me a little bit better clearance, but as you look right there, that's the old bushing. So we'll kind of zoom in a little bit. This is the lower control arm that ties, you can see, to the spindle. And there isn't a lot holding it on. I've already done the other side. So I thought I would just see how hard it was before I tried to videotape this. This is my first time doing it, making a video, so bear with me. I haven't done this before. So we'll go ahead and take a shot. It's not really difficult. I'll give you an idea of the tools and how to do it. So off we go. Okay, to give you an idea what you need tool-wise, it's really only 4 sockets. It's a 22, a 17, a 14, and a 10. And to give you an idea where everything is, so this bolt is a 22, this nut is a 22. This nut back here, this is actually a bolt and a nut together. That's a 17, and the nut is on top. To take this panel out of your way, you need a 10 here and another 10 here. And the last two you need for the 14s, you'll see this bracket comes off this. There's 2 bolts here and here. Those are the 14s. So really, you're only talking 2, 3, 4, 5, and these 2, 7. 7 bolts, and that's it. It's out. It's kind of got to do a little bit of pry bar, but we'll see as we go. Just wanted you to see what you needed. Okay, so what I'm first going to start with is a 1/2 inch on the nut at the end, and I'm using a pry bar just to see if I can kind of loosen it up, because there it is. It's pretty tight. They've got red thread locker on these, all of them. I'm going to go back with blue thread locker just so it has something to hold, and if I ever have to take it off again, I don't have to do what I'm doing now, killing myself. So that one's loosened up. Now I'm going to try to hit this guy here. This is also the 22. Let's see. Oh boy. Oh, nope. Can't get a good grip on it. Let's see. There we go. Let's see that. Wow. Okay, it's coming. Let's just fight me. There it goes. All right. There we go. All right. So that's the 22s. This particular bolt actually has 150 foot-pound when you retorque it, so that's why it's so hard to get off. All right, now I'm going to get that back 17, and that one wasn't so bad. This one back here is 17, and all I'm doing is loosen them up just to get me started. Let's see. It's going, but you got to remember there's a nut up here. And always good to make sure the car is cool when you do this. Mine was a little warm because I had to move it first, because we got your exhaust right there. But this one's already good and starting to come. So we'll take this one out. Again, if you've got air tools or electric tools to help you out, by all means do it. I have a tendency to like to use hand tools. I guess I like to hurt myself more. There's 17, and I'm going to get the nut out. And there's the nut. And you can see on the end here, I don't know if you can see it real well, it's got a hint of red all over it. See, it's got red thread locker that they use. Okay, now what we'll do is before we take off the big 22s, I want to loosen up these two 14s, just so we can have it all loosened up and ready to go. Here we go. Let's go for these 14s. These aren't too bad. These are like 30, I think they're 36 foot-pounds. I've got a sheet with all my torque specs, which I will tell you later on when we put it back together. So these guys are pretty much out. Now, one thing to be aware of, there's a couple other videos that have done these bushings. One of them is Lam Lee. I've been following Lam Lee for a little while. He actually did a set of these bushings on a friend's ISF. And one thing that he taught me, when you take out this 22, watch out for water. There is water that sits in the subframe, and when you take it out, it comes pouring out. It actually did to me on the other side of my car when I did it earlier. So luckily I'm kind of working off to the side, and I didn't get wet. But just something for you to know, when you take out that big 22, watch out for water. Well, you can see on this one too, these also have red thread locker on them. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, they have red. So what we'll do now is we'll go to the big 22. All right. Let's make sure it's on off. There we are. And off we go. It was right about here I saw water dripping. This one I could see a little wet. Right here you can see it. There's some wetness coming out. But it took a little bit more before it finally let loose. And it was a good, like a half a cup of water. So if you're doing it on a lift and you're underneath, don't get your face in the way. Otherwise you'll have a little shower. Let's see if I can, there you go. Now this is a pretty long bolt, so it takes a little bit. Here comes the water. You can see the moisture coming down. I don't know if you see it all. All right, not working with me here, so. All right, there it is. This one wasn't so bad. The other side had a lot more water. But you can see on the back of this washer, there is a good amount of rust. So even on the bolt, good amount of rust. I end up cleaning these up a little bit, making sure when I put them back they're all clean. But just be careful, water does come out of there in some cases, not too bad on this one. All right, what we'll do is before we take off this one, you need to loosen this pan so you can just get it down, kind of down out of the way, hanging a little bit. That will give you a little access to the nut and to be able to pull the bushing out. So what I've done, I take two off. I know everybody wants to take the least amount of parts off their car, but to drop this pan out just enough to get it really out of your way, you take this one out, and this is again, this is a 10, number 10, and then there's another one right over here, kind of behind, you can't really see, another number 10, and they're just little screws, and you can see it's just a plastic pan, nothing to it. Once you get it loosened up, you go ahead and pop it out, and that will let you pull the whole bushing out once we get this last one out. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, last number 22, take the nut off. It's a nut and a washer. I reused the washer on the other side. I plan on using this one. There you go. Nut, washer. All right, now, what you do to get this out, you can't just pull it out. You've got to take a pry bar, get it up under the lower control arm here, if you can see it. And this is the subframe, and this is the pry bar. You can see I kind of have it just wedged up in there, and you got to give it a little bit of pressure. It'll move, but you can see you've got to clear the back of the subframe. So the other one came out pretty easy, but I got to really bend it. But there it is, and that's your bushing. It's in pretty good shape. It's fluid filled. That's one of the reasons why it moves so much. But what we'll do is, you can see the threads have a lot of little rust on them, a little bit of mess. We'll clean those up with a little wire brush. We'll end up greasing this, and we'll put it all back together. So off we go. Okay, so simple little wire brush, nothing crazy. Just want to try to get a little bit of rust off the threads. Just want to clean it a little bit, nothing too much. And I do put thread locker back even on this one, because I really wouldn't want it to come apart if I was doing, say, the speed limit. And if it came apart, I would be interested to see what kind of cool accident I'd have. Because of course, only the speed limit, never over. All right, pretty good. Doesn't have to be super deluxe, just enough to get it on there. Now, in the Figs kit, comes with a tube of grease. What they want you to do, and it's what I want you to do is, I've already used half of it. You see, it's kind of half used up. What we're going to do is just basically grease where the bushing goes, and it's pretty thick stuff. It's definitely, it's basically like bearing grease, which it's a bearing, so that would make sense. And I go from the threads back, but I make sure I get it on everything. Biggest thing here is make sure you get all sides of the spindle covered in grease. And we're just about there. I'm probably overdoing it, but I think I'd rather have more than less, because I don't know what would happen if you didn't have enough grease. I'm sure it would probably squeal a lot. So that should be good. Now that we've got it greased, it's time to try to put the bearing on. Now, you've got two sides to this. You've got a side with a flat, and the other side that's got sort of a cone shaped. The cone shaped goes to the inside, and the flat to the at, so that the washer and the nut can sit flat against it. So you also can see that the lower part here will bolt to the back, and the upper part will go here. And the holes, obviously smaller one, larger ones, to kind of give you an idea. And Figs has their logo facing out. That helps you kind of get an idea of what's going on. So same thing, you've got to put the pry bar back in and get it down so you can clear everything. But it does go in relatively easy once you bend it down far enough. And there you go. Okay, so bushing's in. All we've got to do is reverse what we did. We're going to put in the bolt and the nut first, these guys, the 17, and put in the back. And like I said, I like to use thread locker. I do not have red, but I do have blue. So I know, I'm sure I've had people scream at me, say you should use what you're supposed to put on, red. Don't have it. So this is better than nothing. I've seen people do this kind of stuff, suspension work, and not use any thread locker. So I think some is better than none. If we can get it to come out. There we go. All right. Okay, there we go. Just enough to get it on the threads. All right. Right through the hole. And I had this problem before on the other side. It didn't go through very easily. And that one was a lot easier. Okay. Now, getting the nut to the top. This one, pretty good. A little clearance issue on this side with the exhaust in the way, but it's going. Just gotta thread it on. All right. So what I'll do is I'm gonna just put on the nut. Put on the 17, and I'm just going to snug it up. I'm not going to put it to torque spec yet. Just get it on there and make it so it's grabbing, basically. Now, on the end here, again, want to put some thread locker. Just enough to make sure it's kind of hold that nut on. Like I said, I really wouldn't want to find out what it's like driving at typical highway speeds of 55 miles an hour and have it come apart. Now, washer first, then nut. All right. Same thing. I'm just going to snug it up. I'm not going to torque it. There you go. All right, now this bolt I'm going to clean up a little bit. So I'm not going to put you through the pain of waiting for me to clean it up. I'll clean it and come right back. Okay, so I was going to clean it up. I basically got all the moisture out of it. Tried to brush off some of these little rust spots. It's got a coating on it. Cleaned it up a little bit. I didn't want to go too crazy because I was afraid to take any more of the coating off. It's all surface rust. There's a little bit of rust in between the washer. You can see a little bit of it there. So tried to clean it up. Got as much off as I could. Don't want to go too crazy. Again, take off the coating. It just ends up rusting quicker. So what we're going to do, same thing. Put some blue thread locker on it just to kind of hold it together. And what I find is I'm putting it on the end, and it will, as you thread it up, it'll force up into the nut. Okay. All right. Now, one thing, remember, you have to put the bracket on. I forgot that on the other side. I've cleaned this bracket up. All I do is take a little bit of WD-40 and a shop rag, get all the dirt off, and the WD-40 kind of puts a little coating on it. Doesn't really pick up dirt too easy after you do that. So you have to remember to put this on, like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this hang for a sec, and I'm going to go ahead and hit these little two 14s, a little bit of thread locker too, and we're going to put these guys in now too by hand. So just got to get it started. Get the second one. Okay, second one. A little bit of thread locker. All right. Okay, now we are going to, I'm going to sock up the little ones first before I hit the big one. And again, just tighten it up, not bring it to torque specs, just so that it's not flopping around. All right, now, get the big guy, put him back in. This one, it gets to a point that you can't do it by hand anymore. And so, it's a little bit easier with a socket. I'm using a short extension with my 1/2-inch drive. The reason why is it clears the caliper and you can swing a little bit easier. Just go all the way around. There we go. Starting to tighten up. There it is. This one you can make a little tighter because you're going to have to get it to 150 foot-pounds when you torque it. Okay, so at this point, all you have left is to torque everything down and put in the last 2 little 10mm screws for the pan. You've got the back one first. If I can find the hole. There it is. And these, I'm not going to put them to a torque. I'm just going to put them on so they're snug enough that they're not cutting through, because remember, it goes into the subframe, which is aluminum, and you don't want to go too much. Just enough to make it tight for it's a plastic pan. And we got the second one. And it's going into a plastic, I'll call it a plastic nut inside the aluminum subframe. So if you strip it, you'd have to take the nut out, buy another one, and replace it. Okay, so that's in place now. All right, so all that's left to do is you're going to torque the 222s, the 17, and the 214s. And I'll give you the torque specs for each as we do each one. The hardest one is this front one. That's 150 foot-pounds. So I have a old click style torque wrench, and I'm going to set it on 150. Okay, so here we are, 1/2-inch drive, clicky style, trying to do 150 foot-pounds. So you're going to hear me grunting a little bit. It's hard to do this on your back on a dolly. There you go, 150. Okay, so now we'll do this back 17. And the 17, according to the torque specs, which I have a piece of paper to look at, so it's my cheat sheet, is 63 foot-pounds to the back one. Back one with the nut, with this number 17, 63 foot-pounds. Okay, 63. All right, now we're going to do the big nut on the end. And this one doesn't have a lot of clearance. The nut should be torqued to 83 foot-pounds. Okay, 83 foot-pounds for the 22. Now, there's not a lot of room. I was able to do the other side with a little finagling. As you can see, I don't have a lot. I have to pull up on this side, so. Ooh. All right, 83. All right, all I got left are these two, and we're done. So like I was saying, the 214s here get torqued down to 37 foot-pounds. This one's a little bit easier extension. Okay, that's one. Here you go. So that is the entire bushing installed. Not very hard. Now they do recommend you get an alignment because you have changed the components in the front end. I'm actually going to go now, after I clean up a little bit, I'm going to clean up some of this, wipe it all down, and go to my local alignment shop and get an alignment. So there it is, changing the old fluid-filled Lexus bushings to a new Figs Engineering polyurethane bushing for your lower control arms. So just remember, the other side is the exact same way we did this. It's the same sizes. There's no difference, except it's just an opposite way. Remember to put the flat part of the bushing facing to the back of the car, and the cone-shaped side into the lower control arm. Otherwise, I'd show you the other side. I've already done it. Really, it's the exact same thing, just on the other side. So real easy to do. Something, if you have an ISF, definitely worth the money for the upgrade. Nice and easy. Take a look. This is it, completely done. I've cleaned up the lower control arm. You can see, just kind of cleaned it up with some WD-40, wiped it down, done the lower air panel, wiped down the oil pan. I always like to try to keep stuff underneath clean a little bit. You can tell if you have leaks or not too. But yeah, this is the final product. It's all installed, everything's torqued up. Real easy to do. The whole thing took me less than an hour because I take my time. I have a tendency to wipe things down and clean them as I do them. I'm sure if you just wanted to just swap them out and get them in, it'll take you less time, but definitely a good upgrade. Like I said earlier, you should go get an alignment after messing with your suspension, and it may have something a little bit off, especially from using the pry bar. So definitely go get an alignment so it doesn't trip your tires. But from what everybody said, this upgrade of the polyurethane bushings for lower control arms help with your high-speed braking. It stops the tires from bowing out and creating wear on the inside of the tires. I'm sure you can find lots of videos on YouTube like I did that shows the lower control arm kind of dancing around inside the fluid-filled bushings, the original ones, and the newer ones for this, like this Figs or an RR Racing. You can see that it really is very much different. I've had everybody say that it feels so much better once you do it, so I'm kind of excited to go take this for a ride, get it on, and just kind of see how it does. Of course, all within speed limits, posted speed limits. So enjoy. Hopefully it helped. Good luck. Have fun driving.